good afternoon. Good
Chairperson,
afternoon,
you're not
everybody.
audible on my side.
Am I audible on anybody else's side?
No, you're audible now. Thanks.
Ah, perfect. Colleagues, we're just going to wait a sec just to check everybody has logged on. It's here. Are we correct? Is there anybody who is missing that you're aware of?
Chairperson, there are a few members that's not there. We'll try and get them to join quickly. But if you want to proceed, I think we have got the majority of the members in the meeting.
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
we may proceed.
I see Honourable Marais is just about to log in. So
Log in. Okay.
All right, so welcome everybody, and thanks for joining. This is a sort of preparation meeting in anticipation of our meeting with the Californian delegation next week, Tuesday the 13th, 6 o'clock. And just a little bit of background to the meeting. The California State Assembly requested a meeting with two standing committees, the Standing Committee of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament that deals with agricultural and environmental matters. So that covers two of our committees. And these are the two committees, obviously, that we have assembled here today. It's important to remember that although our standing rules don't make provision for committees to have joint meetings, Rule 91H does stipulate that a committee may confer with other committees, and that is effectively what is going to take place today. Just in terms of protocol, if we can quickly do a roll call of members present on the virtual platform, so that we know that everybody who is online is who they say they are. We can kick it off with whoever wants to go first.
Chair, Masipa, a member of the committee, but also chairperson on the portfolio of agriculture, economic development and tourism. Thank you, Chair.
Wonderful.
Afternoon, Chair. Beauty Stoffels, member of the committee.
Good afternoon, Chair. Noel Constable, member of the committee.
Good afternoon, Chair. Member Khalil Barankais, also member of this committee. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Peter Johnson, permanent member of the Local Government Committee.
See, we have member Mbombo. Member Mbombo. Member Mbombo. Member Marais. So log on. I'm not sure. Am I audible? Can I be heard?
Yes, Chair.
Ah, wonderful. I see Ashley Naidu had his hand up, but he's put it down. Dion Rousseau has given a thumb up. Okay, so you're basically saying you can hear me. So I just want to quickly check again. Is member Mbombo online? Member Marais is going to log back in again. Okay, I think he's had an issue. All right, so I'm not entirely sure if member Mbombo is present, but I see there is somebody logged in under her name. All right, and member Marais, when he does log in, we will then acknowledge him later. It's not a train smash. All right, so if I can just quickly welcome the officials who are joining us today on the virtual platform as well. We've got apologies from Minister Bredell and Minister Meyer and Dr. Sebupetsa and Mr. Gerber, but we do have a number of other officials who are filling in, and we are going to start off the discussion with a presentation from Cape Nature and Colin Diner from DRM on the wildfires. And if we can then begin on item 5, which on my agenda is the briefing by the Department of Local Government and Cape Nature. Colleagues, I'm not going to go through introductions of every single official present. I think we can be sensible enough to acknowledge that everybody is here, and those officials can then introduce themselves when they are speaking. So I'm going to hand over to Mr. Diner and to Mr. Rousseau to proceed with the presentations, unless Mr. Pausa or Dr. Naidu would like to say anything first. You're also obviously welcome to do so. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chairperson and members. Myself and Colin are in the room here. We're together. So I think Colin is just logging on, and then he will do the presentation on our behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Naidu, would you like to say a couple of words quickly as well before we move into presentations?
Yes. Thank you, Chair and Honourable members. Dion will begin our presentation, and he collates our fire report and is a primary person in planning for the fires and active firefighting, and we can take some discussion afterwards. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. All right, so Mr. Diner, when you're ready to kick us off, then you can begin.
Chairperson, we're just trying to get it on. Perhaps if I can suggest that you
let's start. Let's start with Cape Nature first then. All right.
Great, thank you, Chair and honourable members of the Standing Committee for this opportunity. My name is Dion Rousseau. I'm the Capability Manager for Integrated Catchments in Cape Nature. So my job encompasses mainly fire management or integrated fire management within Cape Nature and alien vegetation management as well. So I will just be sharing. I just want to make sure that everybody can see that. Okay, I'm assuming that everybody can see that.
Yes, we can see that. That's great. Perfect.
Great, thanks. So this is a presentation on Cape Nature's role in integrated fire management in the Western Cape, and it encompasses some legislative background objectives, and our scope of collaboration with partners and stakeholders, and then some of our opportunities, some of our challenges and opportunities as well. Just want to see if this will go forward. Right. So this is our sort of a breakdown of our legislative mandates that we have. So Cape Nature is a Schedule 3C entity. It's a parastatal but operates independently. We established in terms of the Western Cape Biodiversity Act, and we adhere to a number of international conventions, national legislative acts, provincial legislative acts, and then, sort of narrow it down to fire management itself. So National Veld and Forest Fire Act, which is, as far as I know, the name has changed now officially to the National Veld Fire Act. And that is the act that we focus mainly on when it comes to fire management, and that act is very specific on things like fire protection associations, fire breaks, our FDIs, fire danger index, and then firefighting itself. And then just quickly on Cape Nature itself, so we have 16 protected area complexes and 27 what we call nature reserves or protected areas, and we manage just over 1 million hectares of protected area within the Western Cape, and that covers about 8% of the Western Cape area. So from the legislative side, we have a lot of internal policies that govern how we manage fire within Cape Nature. And it's we look at it from an integrated point of view. So we have an integrated veld fire management policy that's linked to other policies and frameworks within Cape Nature and outside of Cape Nature. And the scope of the policy covers all of our staff, all of our contractors, partners, and so on. Obviously, we comply with the National Veld and Forest Fire Act, and mainly one of the big sort of objectives of the policies and the standard operating procedures and guidelines is to minimize risk, make sure that we are that our governance is correct and that we are cooperative with all of our partners and stakeholders, and that there's a standardized approach to integrated wildfire management. Obviously, there's a heavy emphasis to understand the ecological impacts of fire and biodiversity, and a lot of time is spent on maintaining ecological integrity and sharing that knowledge so that we know how critical fire is to the functioning of the Cape Floristic region. Just keeping in mind as well that firefighting, or the preparation and activation of our firefighting, probably takes up between 6 and 8 months of the year. So we're planning for the 2025-26 fire season or summer fire season. That planning started probably 2 months ago. So we have a lot of audits and standard operating procedures and guidelines that we need to have in place before we start the fire season. And a lot of time is spent on making sure that everybody is safe and that we have the right equipment, the right PPE, and the right training. And obviously our best practices are meticulously followed, and we do an evaluation at the end of the year, and that comes through in the annual fire report that we do on a yearly basis. So those are all of our policies, protocols, standard operating procedures, and so on. I'm sorry, I didn't have the right slide on there. There we go. So the next slide is on technologies and data. So we've got a vast amount of data dating back to as far back as 70 years for some of our reserves, and detailed data going back to 1980 in a lot of our other reserves. So Cape Nature has a Cape Nature fire database that we've recently moved over to FireWeb, which is a online version that is used by a lot of district municipalities, local municipalities as well. So again, it's partnerships working together in order to collate and mobilize teams, collate data, and so on. We do use remote sensing and satellite monitoring. We used APHIS for a while. We are using real-time fire spread models through Aurora Tech, through Provincial Disaster Management, who are assisting us for that. We have got thermal scanners. We do use drones at fires, even though the drones are not ours. We do have the wonderful collaboration between the United States and South Africa, funded by the US government and NASA, and that's the Bioscope project that basically looks at flying over areas and giving us hyperspectral data, so we can really plan more and see where we need to put fire in and where we need to keep fire out. We are also looking at improving our digital mobile radio network. The network that we have at the moment is old and outdated. And then obviously partnerships are critical to the success of our tech usage, as Provincial Disaster Management and us as an example, where we're using Aurora Tech through them to do fire modeling and so on. So partnership stakeholder benefits. So this is just a slide that was interesting to put on. It represents some of the partners that we have and some of the benefits that we get from it. And some of those benefits add up to, in the 2023-24 financial year, they added up to 91 million rands worth of partnership benefit. And that is a non-monetary amount, but we have actually costed it to be able to give an exact amount. And this is briefly just a sort of a snapshot of the contracts that we have, or the partnerships that we have, and the amount of money that we benefit through them. And obviously, I've put up there as well the Bioscape, the work that Bioscape is doing for us in the Western Cape. Also a very good partnership as well through SAON and NRF. Obviously, fire awareness and capacity building is incredibly important as far as prevention is concerned of fires. So a lot of time before fire season is spent on fire awareness and capacity building, and this is just a very, very small snapshot of all the awareness and education that we do with schools and communities and so on. So some of our challenges, so we use large-scale rapid initial attack, which is getting as many resources to a fire as quickly as possible, and that is still our default. And we need to try and pull back from that to make so that when we see areas where the felt is maybe old or does need to burn, that we don't do a rapid initial attack first. We rather let the felt burn, but that does lead to some of the points below from a liability point of view. So our rapid initial attack is, as I said, our default, but we do need to start looking at areas where we should allow them to burn because the felt is too old and it does need to burn. One of the other challenges is the correct implementation of the incident command system. So we spend a lot of time on training of our incident command structures. I'm sorry, there's a feedback. Is anybody else hearing it?
Yeah, it was there for a second, but I think it stopped again. I think somebody might have turned their microphone on.
Sounds like it's gone. Sorry, as I was saying, the correct implementation of the incident command system. So we spend a lot of time and effort training and doing simulations with our staff, but we are finding that other organizations aren't implementing it the way it should be implemented. So the quicker we can all get onto the same page from an ICS point of view, the better. We do have constrained budget leading to continued overspend on allocation. So just to give you an example, for the last 7 years, every single year we've overspent on the disaster allocation that we have, sometimes up to as much as 100% over the budgeted amount. We do have constrained onboarding of technology and smart tools, so things like drones and other technology. It's incredibly expensive, and that's again where partnerships are so important. We do have large areas of that are infested with invasive alien plants, and that obviously we know the challenges that comes with that when it comes to fire management. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the litigious nature of fire response and management. So we have millions of rands in contingent liabilities that are on our books. As I said, if we do allow areas to burn because they need to burn, there's a risk that we lose that fire, and that fire then does damage to infrastructure, and then the liabilities after that. We do need to look at controlled and prescribed burning more. So we burn when the conditions are right for us, and it's a very much more controlled environment as opposed to having an example where Takai burnt a couple of weeks ago where it's a completely uncontrolled fire. If we had done that in a controlled manner, we would have done it on a cooler day, no wind, when the conditions are right for us. So we do need to look more controlled as prescribed burning. There are, however, costs attached to that. But again, you've got to weigh up the costs of doing a prescribed burn versus the liabilities of having an uncontrolled burn running through an area. Some of our opportunities are FireWeb is a brilliant tool that we're using. It's a very, very steep learning curve for myself and my colleagues and the Cape Nature staff. But we are reaching a point now where we have sort of mainstreamed it in the organization pretty well, and everybody's working on it. Our firebreak network, as per the National Veld and Forest Fire Act, is coming up very nicely. We do have a lot of SOPs in place for that, and it is a target on our annual performance plan as well. We have a lot of good baseline data and baseline information on such as standard operating procedures on ground teams, standard operating procedures for aerial firefighting, standby standard operating procedures for a number of things. We do audits, we do our response plans in August and September every year for the fire season. So we have a lot of plans, we have a lot of things in place that help us and prepare us for the fire season. We have incredibly robust partnerships, especially with the Provincial Disaster Management, where they're helping us with fire modeling information as well as with aerial firefighting as well. We do have a significant number of personnel that are trained in firefighting, and we do have very good training that gets done every year. And then just one of the other opportunities is having this new digital mobile radio network where we would hopefully be able to not only talk amongst ourselves as Cape Nature, but be able to communicate with outside organizations and municipalities and so on, just to tighten up on our fire response and how we fight those fires as well. Right, thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that presentation. We'll have some comments afterwards. I think let's take the next presentation now if Mr. Dine is ready.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Yes, I'm ready. Dion, if you can stop sharing, I'll then be able to share. Thanks. Chair, so yes, I will speak about the Provincial Disaster Management Centre's capability and capacity in terms of the wildfire situation. I just want to get it onto presentation mode. Okay, so I'm firstly going to speak about the risk. Obviously, we look at the entire provincial area, but we work very, very closely, as Dion's already mentioned, with Cape Nature to cover their areas in our entire process. So the wildfire season, so generally we call it the wildfire season. However, we are seeing that continuously we are getting a longer and longer period of wildfires. The largest fire loss financially in one fire in South Africa actually happened in 2017, and that was totally outside of the wildfire season, which is normally from around about the beginning of December to somewhere in April. The Knysna fire, as everybody recalls, happened in June. And then exactly a year later, a month later, in terms of the years, in July, we had the largest fire loss in terms of area, which was in the George Outeniqua area. So although we plan for a wildfire season, because that is generally our summer and our dry season, we are seeing more and more incidents taking place. In the wildfire season in 23-24, the one that happened before the one that's pretty much still in progress, more than 10,000 fires were reported. 150 aerial deployments were achieved, but that was not just ourselves. That includes the City of Cape Town, Cape Winelands, Sandparks, Cape Nature. This year, up to now, we have had 64 aerial deployments just from the province. So that's not including, we're still working on actually, we've extended this wildfire season. So that's the situation. Now, this has happened together with a whole range of other incidents that are taking place pretty much at the same time. So during last year, we also had a whole lot of flooding, electricity blackout, and we had the construction site disaster as well. If you look at our risk profile, we do this every year. So what we do is we take a lot of data, we put it together, and it creates this map for us. So what we look at is we look at risk in terms of what infrastructure is in place. We look at what we call felt age, So if we've had fires in an area before, the risk the following year might be less. If we've had a lot of rainfall and we're seeing a lot of biomass, that would add to the risk. Also human occupation. So that sort of like creates a map for us to indicate where our highest risks are. And what we then try and do is on an ongoing basis, we try and place our resources into the high risk areas so that we can get a quicker response to them. If you look at our classification in terms of our fire risk, this is just an idea to give you that wildfires are most definitely, in terms of fires, the highest risk in the province, together with informal settlement fires and motor vehicle accidents, is the incidents that we have to deal with the most. You can see a range of incidents that we have classified there. And then if you look at the risk assessment, wildfires, where we get to a likelihood of, because it's generally impact and likelihood. The previous slide looked at impact, this slide looks at likelihood. And in our summer season, you can see that we can experience more than 20 incidents per day. So just what is our mandate and strategy? So we do work a lot with the fire protection associations. I'll get back to them around that a little bit later. But the whole integrated fire management process, which is managed by the National Veld Fires Act, is part of the basis. Like with Cape Nature, the Disaster Management Act gives us the authority to coordinate resources across all spheres of government. So as we know, wildfires generally cover more than one municipal area. So we very often in the wildfire season make use of the Disaster Management Act to enable us to coordinate resources from across the board. We also have a mutual aid agreement with all the services, which I'll just, I have a slide on that coming up. And then the South African National Standard 190, which is the standard for community protection against fire, which basically then provides a standard for municipal fire services to comply. It looks at how many vehicles, how many staff, water supplies, etc. And then the Municipal Structures Act, which places the management of wildfires with district municipalities. So our integrated fire management framework, which is Dion also spoke about, that looks at prevention. And a lot of that is around land use planning, fuel load management, preparedness, where we do training, we do simulations, public awareness. So what we do is the beginning of every year, of every fire season, so around October, November, we run a whole range of courses. It's fire line safety courses, it is incident management courses, and generally we bring instructors from the United States to come and bring us. There's a lot of things happening in the wildfire space, so we try and keep updated with what's happening all the time. We'll run a number of those courses before the season to make sure that we've got the resource in place that when it starts, we're able to respond. Then we go to response, which looks at the incident command system, the coordination of or the coordination of incident command. And when you're dealing with incident command, you really, you have to make sure that sometimes you have several, possibly even more than 100, possibly even more than 200 staff and a lot of vehicles on a scene. And you've got to make sure that that is coordinated properly. And that's where the incident command system comes in. And then we also provide aerial assistance and we provide ground teams. So a couple of years ago, about 15 years ago, we made the decision as the provincial government to no longer just give grants to municipalities for wildfires. What we did was we decided to retain that funding, but to provide the assistance ourselves. That gave us the opportunity that we could then negotiate for more aircraft. We could negotiate a better cost for aircraft. And one thing that we found was that municipalities were very reluctant to send aerial resources as an initial attack. And the reason for that is the costs. The costs are extremely high. That reluctance, unfortunately, led to the delay in the response. And what we saw fires that if aerial support had been called earlier, they probably would have got more control over it. So what we did is we went into an agreement with the districts and the metro that if they call us within the first 10 minutes of arriving on scene, we will send and cover the first hour from the provincial budget. And then after an hour, we'd make the decision, do we continue? Have we been successful? and we call it our rapid attack program. It's been extremely successful. We have approximately a 95% success rate of controlling a fire within the first hour of sending resources out. Then, of course, recovery is we do damage assessments. If it is a situation that we need to have a disaster declared, we would then go through that process. And then we work, of course, with our partners for the ecosystem rehabilitation. So I mentioned the rapid attack. So that is coordinated by the Provincial Disaster Management Center. What we found as well with our rapid attack is that if we could get specialized ground teams that are very highly qualified, that can work in high environments to the fire quickly as well, we can be a lot more successful. So we've also in recent years started contracting specialized ground teams, which we can airlift into specific areas to protect a particular line for us, or to do active firefighting. The mutual aid agreement in place between fire services. So if a fire does happen and we have a major incident, we could either what we call declare a code red. That would mean that the fire service in that particular jurisdiction has reached the limit of its resources and they need assistance. And then through the Chief Fire Officers Committee, as well as the Western Cape Veld Fire Committee, we can then coordinate additional resources to go in and assist. And then we also have what we call incident management teams. So an incident management team would be a group of people that would be put together to cover the various parts of the incident command system, and they would then go in and assist whoever the jurisdiction is to manage that fire. So we have the Veld Fire Committee, and I think this is really a good process that we have, because it includes all stakeholders. It's the fire services, the fire protection associations, the conservation agencies working on fire, the South African National Defence Force. Everybody is part of that group. They meet every month to discuss the planning, etc. They play a key role in providing the guidance and the operational coordination. And then during the wildfire season, they will meet every 2 weeks, just to sort of keep a hand on what is happening, the costs that are being incurred, and then also any improvements or alterations we have to make to the seasonal plan. This is just a mutual aid agreement. It just gives an indication of how we go about classifying our incidents and then requesting aid from resources in other municipalities to be able to assist. Last year, we had a fire in the Overstrand, and City of Cape Town, for example, provided 23 vehicles to go and assist in that incident. And then it's also up to the discretion of the municipality whether they will charge for that operation or for that assistance or not. So the incident command system, as I said, it's a standardized system that everybody in the province follows. So what it means is that we can control an incident very much in the same way. So if we are sending somebody, for example, from Cape Town to Overstrand to assist, or from Garden Route to West Coast to assist, they're all working under the same system. They all understand the system, and it's adopted for a province-wide wildfire response. So it is able to manage a large fire, and it is modular and scalable. So we can use it for single incidents, but also for complex incidents. The Knysna fire in 2017, for example, there was 1,108 firefighters on that scene. And so the management of that becomes a very large undertaking. And for that reason, the incident command system supports us. It's supported by what is known as the United States International Fire Services Accreditation Committee, which is in Oklahoma State. And their programs are accredited, and those are the programs that we present. So the fire protection associations, we work, they are registered, and they represent all the landowners and land managers throughout the province. What we have done as the province is we provided grants and equipment, and then we also include the FPAs in all our capacity building and training programs. And then we also integrate them within our fire services and Provincial Disaster Management Center structures. So with a major fire incident like that, everybody's pretty much seen as in the same position. Our collaboration is obviously with all our district municipalities. And then, as Dion mentioned, Cape Nature, we have the Defence Force, we have working on fire. They have a separate agreement with department with the FFE. However, we do contract our aircraft from the same service provider as them. Then just our preparation for seasonal wildfires. So between ourselves and the municipalities, we generally have 20 aircraft, which we have on contract. And they are placed at 5 main bases across the province. We also have 36 runways in the province in various areas. And the reason that we have runways is we also have fixed wing aircraft, which obviously need to land and then take on water and take off again. So because we want to minimize the time taken to carry out an operation, we then have these additional runways that we can use in that period. So across the province, there is approximately 1,550 municipal firefighters. Services like City of Cape Town appoint and Cape Winelands appoint seasonal firefighters who just come in for the wildfire season. And then there's also the specialized teams. So across the province, 31 teams are contracted, comprised of 830 firefighters, and then, of course, the specialized crews, which I've mentioned. Recent innovations is the professionalizing of wildland firefighting crews. That's like being able to deploy crews very quickly and giving them a more of an effective capability other than just protecting specific lines. We've done a lot of work in developing women firefighters, making sure that there's equipment for them, that they are properly equipped. That was a problem in the past, but at the moment it's not. It's really going well. International exposure of wildland firefighters. So we have in the past had agreements with the US Forestry Services that if there's been a big fire in the US, and those fires generally last for several months, we've actually been able to deploy some of our people there to go and learn from them and also to go and provide assistance. And then there's been advances in rapid deployment, so being able to deploy teams by helicopter and also as far as fast roping teams into areas where it would be difficult to reach otherwise. In terms of technology, Dion has spoken. This is just an idea of the Aurora Tech. So the predictive software for fire weather and ignition risk, remote sensing and satellite monitoring, and there is a potential for real-time fire spread modeling and improved resource allocation. And that's very helpful because if we do have an indication through the modeling of where the fire is going to spread, it really allows, that's very much a force multiplier. It allows us to allocate resources much more effectively. Currently, it's underutilized, but the interest is growing from municipalities and from agencies to be looking at that. So challenges and the way forward. As Dion mentioned, the current emphasis is still largely on response. We need to look a lot more at protection. And this year, specifically this season, this department spent a significant amount of funding on protection. We also did go a lot more aggressive in our approach to fires this year. So that movement from, or the strategic shift from prevention or towards prevention and risk reduction with more investment in fuel load management and more investment in community preparedness and education is important. There is a major problem with national resources. Over the last couple of wildfire seasons, probably the last 3 wildfire seasons, we've had limited to no support from the South African National Defence Force in terms of aerial support, which has put a lot more pressure on us as a provincial government and as a department to fund the operations. So the advantage is that we have a strong legislative and coordination framework. We need to enhance prescribed burning, technical integration and predictive tools. And the fire protection associations, which really is the first kind of responders, need to be supported in their prevention and preparation work. And the continued collaboration, which I have to agree with Dion, is really, really good in the province. That really needs to be built on, and that's what we invest a lot of time, a lot of training, and a lot of effort into. And thank you, Chair. That is my presentation.
thank you for both of those presentations. And I think your last point is probably very pertinent, talking about the collaboration between yourselves and Cape Nature, but I suppose indeed across many different spheres and departments and NGOs and all of the different organizations that are involved in fighting fires. I was at the launch of a short video about the firefighting helicopter pilots a couple of weeks back. And it was one of the key themes that was mentioned by the pilots was how effectively the Western Cape is able to coordinate between all of the different parties, but also at the same time, the amazing support that they receive, both financial as well as in terms of physical support and from the general public as well. So I think, before we open up for a couple of questions of clarity, it's just important for us as well to say a big thank you to you and the Cape Nature team and everybody involved in fighting the recent terrible blazes in Cape Town. This is certainly a result of many different factors, but one also can't underestimate the impact that climate change is having. And as somebody who has attended a few of the COPs, I suppose there are many people, yourselves included, who are probably saying, we told you so. But it's so good to see how effective our teams are in responding, both proactively and reactively. So I'm going to open up for questions now. Colleagues, remember, this obviously isn't an item that we are interrogating. It's really an opportunity for you to learn more so that you're prepared for the session with the Californians. So if anybody has any questions of clarity, please raise your hands and we can then get to those. Thank you. Okay, I think the only question of clarity I see is from Honourable Masipa. Honourable Masipa. And then I see Honourable Marais as well. Honourable Marais, you'll go second. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson, and really thank you to Cape Nature and to Mr. Diner for the presentation and really for the work that you're doing, that you manage really to save many lives. Again, also, our really gratitude to you for the work that you have been doing fighting the Tokai fire. Chair, my question really is, I know that Department of Agriculture is going probably to touch that, but I just want to get a sense in terms of the working relationship between, obviously, the Department of Environmental Affairs and the US, especially with regards to California. Has there been really work that Californian guys have come out to South Africa to really get some learning from us in terms of the work that we're doing? Because in the presentation, I get a sense that, we have been able to get some of the technology, or even engage in the US in terms of what we are using to fight fire. I just want to get a feel if there has been some learning that the US counterpart have come really to learn from the work that you're doing here, the good work that you're doing. Let me put it that way. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Member Masipa. Welcome, Member Marais. Sorry we couldn't acknowledge you earlier. I know you were having trouble logging on, but I understand you did get to see the whole presentation. So thank you, and over to you for your question of clarity, and then we'll take Member Stoffel after that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the presenters of the information. I have great respect for firefighters and for this department, especially when it comes to responding to fires that are, there's so many things to calculate, the wind, the weather conditions, the nature of the fire. So I have great respect for this, the work that's been done. I just want, in terms of the interagency coordination forum. Actually, the official actually answered my question to some degree, because it then assures me that there is a coordination and there is regular meetings taking place. Just wanted to understand, building further on this particular interagency coordination, is there also a SLAs in place with various role players in terms of the South African police, for example? We do have incidents where firefighters have to respond to fires either in an informal settlement or in an area that has been invaded, and then they are open to risks, factors, life-threatening attacks on the firefighters. So I just want to know if there is some sort of a fixed agreement in place that are certain areas or certain hotspot areas that there is a coordinated approach to going into those areas together with the South African police that also have already allocated resources to accompany firefighters that have to go into these very risky areas. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks very much, Member Stoffel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, am I audible?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I think Member Marais have covered my question. I just wanted to check with Mr. Rousseau and others to say in terms of this collaboration, tot waar gaan dit? Tot waar strek het? Even does it include local government, whereby with informal settlements? I think it went to the same question. And because you will find really people that is just putting informal settlements in areas where there's not supposed to be. And at the end of the day, that informal settlements can cause these huge fires within the nature, and some of them caused by the wind. So what is the department saying about that? And what are they doing about that in terms of enhancing or trying to strengthen in that regard? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Member Stoffel. So over to you, Mr. Rousseau and Mr. Diner. Obviously, if Dr. Naidu or Mr. Paulson, you're also welcome to comment, but it's probably those two central questions, the one from Member Masipa around collaboration with the states that it's already underway, and then the second one around informal settlements and collaboration. So I don't know who wants to go first.
Chair, I can maybe just give some feedback and then hand over to Dion if that's okay.
Perfect.
Right. So with the US collaboration, a lot of our collaboration has taken place between US Forestry Services, and then a lot of the work on the improvement of our ground teams has actually gone through the Department of Defense. Those are obviously issues that are a problem at the moment. With California, the main work that we did with California is when we made the decision to start the rapid attack program, we actually took the district and the Metro Fire Chiefs to Los Angeles, and we spent quite a bit of time, not with the state, but with the Los Angeles County Fire Department, because that's really, they started the rapid attack program, or they run it very well in the US. So that's the only collaboration that we have, but there's a lot of learnings carrying on that we do across the board with them. Then as far as coordination and SLAs are concerned, so with informal settlement fires, we try and do a lot of prevention work, but we also, South African Police Services are part of our Provincial Disaster Management Advisory Forum, and they also form part of a lot of our planning. So should we have an incident where we are forewarned, like incidents we've had in the past where we know that there will be a problem in an informal settlement, we will bring the police in earlier to meet with them and to make plans. However, if a fire does break out, we have very good platforms at district level with the district joint operation centers to get police escorts into areas. We will never send fire services into a fire area without, if it's unsafe, if it's in any way that there's a threat. We don't see many threats coming from the public. Generally, if there is an incident, they would generally allow the fire services to do their work. So those are the main kind of areas. With local government, the SLA that we have is really the memorandum of MOU that we have, the memorandum of understanding, where everybody would go and assist each other. I can think outside of the city of Cape Town, it's very hard to think of an incident that we've dealt with that we have not had more than one municipality on that incident. So it's a system that works quite well. Dion, if you want to add things.
Yes, thank you, Colin. So I mean, I've got 30 years experience in on the ground firefighting, and I'm very lucky, or I can't say that we've ever had an issue with any sort of violence towards firefighters. I think it does tend to happen more with structural firefighters who are in informal settlements or in a suburb fighting a fire. So yes, luckily we don't have those issues. I think as far as the collaboration is concerned, we are part of the Mediterranean Climate Action Partnership, or MCAP, and they are sort of it's a group of states that within the Mediterranean bioregion. So it would be South Africa, certain parts of Chile, certain parts of Australia, and then Spain, and the United States as well. So, sort of more towards California side. So we do have that partnership as well. And there is a specific work group on wildfire that we belong to. And we are busy with partnering with them as well. Also through Colin and through Etienne du Toit on the provincial disaster management side. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Mr. Dana and Mr. Rousseau. Certainly answered those questions very well. I think the Mediterranean Climate Action Partnership, something that I'm sure myself and probably the chairperson of agriculture would also like to learn a bit more about. I don't think we've been briefed on that, although I understand there is something currently underway with some events to do with that. But as chairpersons of the two committees that are involved, I don't think we have yet been included on that. So perhaps we can do some digging to try and find out a bit more. But that's fantastic. Thank you so much. I am now going to hand over to my colleague, Honourable Masipa, who is going to deal with the second half of the meeting from the chair in terms of the issues and item relevant to his committee. Thank you very much. Honourable Masipa, over to you if you are ready.
Thank you, Honourable Bryant. I think you did a good job. I don't need to do any introduction. However, we have got the Department of Agriculture, and Minister Mayor and the DG are not able to be here. They have got other commitments. I am going to hand over to Dr. Drosky. He will be taking us through the presentation. Dr. Drosky, over to you, sir. I see a hand up. Mr. Naidu, before you proceed, Dr. Drosky, please wait. Let's hear what Dr. Naidu wants to say.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair, I just want to query whether you still need myself and my Cape Nature colleagues, the two of us, the Executive Director, Coral Burst, and Dion and myself. Do you still need us for this component of the meeting, or can we log off the meeting, Chair? Thank you.
I don't know. We didn't really caucus this, myself and the chair from the Local Government and Environmental Affairs, but chair, I think can I?
Chair, from my side, I am more than happy for them. I know Cape Nature and the DRM guys are both incredibly busy with dealing with a lot of very, very urgent issues at the moment. So I'm more than happy for them to leave.
Okay. Yeah, then I'm fine, Chair, if you're good.
Thank you, Chair. We'll leave now. Thank you. Enjoy your
Thank you
afternoon.
very much, colleagues. Thank you for your
Chairperson.
inputs.
Thank you.
Cheers, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Over to you, Dr. Drosky.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Let me just put the presentation in, yeah, I think it's in the correct mode. So thank you for that. So what I'm going to do is the topics I'm going to address is why California, the process leading up to the agreement signed on 11 March 2022, and what happened since. And well, one of the reasons why California is I don't think any member of the standing committee could identify whether that particular photo is taken in South Africa or California. It illustrates some of the similarities between the two regions. So we as Western Cape Department of Agriculture, what we need to do, we are a provincial department, so evidently what we need to do is to a large extent determined by the provincial mandate, or the mandate received by the provincial parliament. But what we also need to do is we need to take notice of what is happening at the national level. We are part of South Africa, and also at the local level, because there is no agricultural project that does not have a local footprint. All that is constrained or must take place in our reality, or what we can say is what God gave us, or the cards that we were dealt. It is no use we say in Europe that, in Australia the other, and the USA they've got a special advisor on honeybees in the presidential office. We must work with our natural resources, the people of this province, and the structure of our economy. But at the same time, there's also a number of risks that will prevent us from doing what we intend to do, our environment, social risk, and economic risk. So this is the atmosphere that we are operating in, and in which we have to develop our plans and our strategies. Now, when we talk about risk, the World Economic Forum has gotten annually in January, they publish their risk report. And if one look at the medium-term risk, 5 to 10 years, we see that the 5 most important risks is all in our environment: climate, weather, biodiversity loss, natural resource crisis, and human environmental damage. Environment, which has an impact on agriculture. And if we then look at the Mediterranean regions of the world, the Western Cape, has got a Mediterranean climate. And between us and North Africa, there are no other region with a similar climate. So around the Mediterranean Sea in North Africa, Southern Europe, there's quite a number of countries with a similar climate. Then in the USA, California, and the northern parts of Mexico. In Chile, there are certain areas, and in Australia, there are areas with a similar climate. So if we talk about risk and production and what is possible to grow, it is those areas that has got the biggest linkage or link that we can learn from, and that has got a similar area. So in the case of California, what is also important here is that if California was a country on its own, then it would be the 5th largest economy in the world. I think, is it a week or so ago, there's new data indicate that it may be the 4th largest economy in the world. It leads the USA in terms of agricultural production. It's a #1 of milk production in the USA. The state has got 50 billion in receipts that it gets. There are more than 400 commodities being grown in California. 1/3 of the US vegetables come from California. 2/3 of the fruits and nuts comes from California. More than 400,000 hectares of almonds are grown there. More than 400 hectares of grapes. And there are roughly 77,000 farms in California. So that is an indication of the importance of the agricultural importance of California. And again, it links back to what we are, why it's important for us. Again, California's drought, they also experience, like us, at day 0, they experience similar droughts. It could have been a picture of the Theewaterskloof Dam that has been taken on the right-hand side. So why California? There's a clear linkage between the Western Cape and what we are doing, and just as we had the discussion now on wildfires, they've got the similar experiences in there. So the process leading up to the agreement, there was already in 2001, there was an agreement signed between the Western Cape and California. There was also with Florida in 1995 and Georgia in 2014 in the US, there were already agreements signed. And if I'm correct, that 2001 agreement was signed by then Premier Gerald Morkel. The areas of collaboration, agriculture, education, public management, social service, tourism, film industry. I mean, Hollywood is in California, so it makes sense that the film industry would be included. However, like most of these agreements, it became dormant after 5 years. Paper is very geduldig. Not quite sure what that would be in English, but so it's very easy to sign an agreement, but to maintain that agreement and to get results and positive outcomes from such an agreement is not always that easy. So that is why this particular agreement became dormant after 5 years. Then in 2019, before COVID, we received a delegation from California Department of Food and Agriculture. That delegation was led by Secretary Karen Ross, and it was an exploratory visit, and they were interested into having agreements with regions with a similar climate. We inter alia took them to the Steyn Valley outside Worcester, where we have got certain projects, and that is where the photo came from. So we did presentations there on Smart Agri, our climate change response by Dr. Troutman, droughts, floods, and mitigation by Ms. Asia Peterson, and our drought crisis, how we engage with stakeholders by Mr. Daryl Jacobs, who still is the DDG in our department. We then took them to site visit, the Berg River Dam, as well as the Holsloot flood construction rehabilitation site, of which the picture is here, invasive alien clearing, and we entertained them with roosterbrood and tea at this particular site. The next day, on the 16th, they attended the BFAP baseline launch at Lord Charles in Somerset West, just to indicate what we are doing at a strategic level. The outcome of this visit is they were very interested in having and signing an agreement. However, we said, listen, before we sign another piece of paper, let's first work together and see what comes out of that and establish relationships between people. Because in the end, it is not the paper that does the work, it is people that understand each other and find synergies, etc. So we then, subsequent to that, we organized 2 webinars. So COVID-19 happened, total lockdown, and when that lifted a little bit on 7 October 2020, we couldn't anyway have a physical visit, so we had a webinar. So the first one was on water use efficiency. So from our side, irrigation and drought, Asia Peterson and Lopinar. Irrigation and drought in California was also presented. Water use efficiency in California, governance, regulation and demand management. From that side, from our side, ecological infrastructure in the Western Cape, Marlene Laros, California State Water Efficiency Enhancement Program, and government systems to prevent day zero. Mr. Colin Diner did the presentation on that particular event. So that was also closely linked to the previous presentation that we had. The second webinar was on 20 July 2021, a climate smart webinar. So Prof. Peter Johnson from UCT did a presentation on science of climate change. The science of climate change in California was presented. Climate smart agricultural program in California by Dr. Gunnar Sakara was presented. Our Smart Agri Plan by Prof. Stephanie Mitchley. On the side of California, they did some presentations on climate smart tools. From our side, we did presentations on Fruit Look and Cape Farm Mapper. So those are the 2 webinars that was presented. And based on that, we then said, okay, we think it is worth the while to take this to the next step and sign an agreement. So that agreement was signed on the 11th of March 2022. The agreement was approved by Cabinet, the Cabinet meeting of 24 November 2021. It was approved that we can enter into that agreement, and the Cabinet decision then note and support the cooperation between the Western Cape Department of Agriculture and the California Department of Food and Agriculture, and associated formalization of this agreement. So the key components of this agreement was signed virtually. So we met here in Cape Town, and Secretary Ross and her team in Sacramento in California. The agreements were signed and then exchanged via the diplomatic bag of the US consulate in Cape Town. And so then the counterpart was also signed. So the goals of this agreement was exchange of information on climate change mitigation, connect academic institutions for further research and collaboration on water use efficiency, and further use the availability of climate smart agriculture, technology and on-farm practices, soil health, etc. The objective was to create a flexible framework to promote mutual beneficial relationships for the exchange of information, on-farm practices, etc., and work collaboratively on further international engagement by sub-national governments on climate-smart agricultural initiatives. This MOU is effective from the date of signature, that's 11 March 2022, for a 5-year period, unless renewed or extended. So that means, if my calculations is correct, that this agreement lapses on 10 March 2027, unless renewed and unless both parties find value in the extension or renewal of this particular contract. So the areas of cooperation that was identified expand exchange of information, on-farm practices, etc., with specific reference to improve water use efficiency, with specific reference to groundwater modeling and remote sensing. Just a side note on this, California is actually looking at our water use licensing model and Water Act with envy, because their groundwater allocation is oversubscribed 5 to 6 times. So it's a major problem for them on their side. The groundwater use and clawing back the allocations of groundwater that was made. Modeling the impact of climate change on the agricultural sector, exchange of information regarding policies and regulations, intergovernmental and international visits, joint activities such as organization of participation in seminars, workshops, etc., and then facilitation of innovative partnerships, bringing together various parties. So it was also decided that specific actions may include joint webinars, to conduct climate-smart agricultural policy, missions to one another's country, and participants will contribute to relevant conferences, trade shows, and other knowledge-sharing activities in California and the Western Cape. It's important to note that there was no exchange of funds were included in this agreement, and the obligation is to the different participants to fund their own activities during such exchanges or cooperative agreement. So each participant will carry all costs incurred by the partner incurring it. Employees will work under the orders and responsibilities of their partner to the agreement and manage its own employee relationships. Okay, so that is what is in the agreement that is signed. And yesterday I shared the signed agreement with the Standing Committee. Okay, so what happened since? Based on this agreement, Minister Meyer visited California in September 2022. Myself, Daniel Johnson, and Asia Peterson accompanied the minister, and the objectives of this visit were to explore the potential of water use efficiency, modeling the impact, exchange of information on regarding policy and regulations, intergovernmental and international visits involving policymakers, joint activities, and facilitation of innovative partnerships. During this event, we were also taken by California Wildfire to visit some of their sites. And although it's not an agricultural responsibility, we were very impressed with that, and we committed that we will put our Mr. Colin Diner and his team in contact with California Fire or Cal Fire. And actually, we realized when we returned that that relationship already exists. So, but it was in the process we cemented that relationship. The key recommendations that came out of this visit, and there's Minister Meyer and Secretary Ross. The key recommendations is that we should convene technical workshops on with the private sector on issues such as PSBH, that a Mediterranean Agricultural Summit be held with technical case studies on climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies, that we facilitate cooperation on certification of ethical trade in the wine industry, VinPro and Sustainable Wine Institute of California. Actually, our certification system in South Africa is one of the best in the world. And there's an opportunity for other regions to learn from our own certification. Technical support to further investment by California in the Western Cape berry industry and facilitate staff exchanges and knowledge sharing between the Western Cape and California. That was the key recommendations out of the exercise. Subsequent activities. There was a preparatory MS Teams meeting with Mr. Josh Eddy, the California Department of Food and Agriculture, and some of his colleagues on establishment of a platform on climate change. Then Dr. Troutman, Prof. Mitchley, and Ms. Karen Shippey from DA and DP visited California in June 2023. And they visited UC Davis and the biggest agricultural show in California at Salinas in June 23, where presentations was also presented. And out of that visit, the establishment of the Mediterranean Climate Partnership, MCAP, that Mr. Duiner has also referred to, took place. That was established at COP18 in December 2023 in Tunisia, and Dr. Troutman represented the Western Cape at that event. The first annual meeting took place in June last year in Barcelona, and actually, as we are sitting here, the second annual MCAP meeting is taking place in the Western Cape, and that is why Dr. Troutman and the HOD and Ms. Peterson couldn't join me at the standing committee because they are actually currently busy with MCAP receiving our international guests there. And Chairperson, I think it may be good if you could invite Dr. Troutman to do a presentation on MCAP. The MCAP members committed themselves to expand public awareness on climate change, learn from each other and build capacity, exchange approaches, accelerate concrete actions in the Mediterranean regions, and track and report progress. That photo was actually taken on Monday here at Stellenbosch at the Technopark, where the MCAP meeting is taking place. The members of MCAP, you will see the Western Cape is, well, these are all founder members. The Western Cape is one. Then in South America, there are two regions, Santiago, Biobío. North America, Baja Sur in Mexico, as well as California. Then around the Mediterranean Sea, there's quite a number of regions. Catalonia is very strong on that. And then South Australia, Victoria, and New South Wales in Australia are also members. The co-chairs is Catalonia and California, and the secretariat is hosted by the Resilient Cities Working Group. I think, if I'm correct, that is in Catalonia in Spain, where they are based. So I think that is probably the biggest activity coming out of this agreement, and it is probably also a reason why to continue with this relationship between the Western Cape and California. So we did invite Mark McLaughlin and Andrew Klein from the California Department of Food and Agriculture to participate in the PSHB webinar. I know that the Standing Committee of the Western Cape Parliament visited California. I think it was in 2023. But unfortunately, I don't have the information on what they visited and what the outcome and commitments was during that visit. But it should be with the Secretariat of the Standing Committee. And then Mr. Ari van Ravensway and Ms. Lee and Bell from our department intend to visit University of California Santa Cruz campus in July this year, and that focus will be on fourth IR technology, artificial intelligence, and those sort of things. So, Chairperson, that is my story. Thank you very much. If there are any questions or any comments, then I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dirk, for the presentation. Really is quite insightful. Learned quite a lot. I did come across this Mediterranean engagement platform at the CTICC. I can't remember which year, but I think I was still in the National Assembly. But yeah, well done on the work that you have embarked on regarding that. I think, honorable members, we've got an opportunity now to ask questions. Or obviously, inputs are also welcome, as Dr. Trotsky has said. Are there hands? I see Dave Bryant. I see only the hand of Dave Bryant. Dave Bryant, you can go ahead, honorable member.
Thanks, Chair. I think Member Moraes also raised his hand there. Chair, thank you very much to Mr. Trotsky for the presentation, and I think it adds a lot of context and understanding for us all. I'm just, I suppose, intrigued about this Mediterranean Climate Action Partnership and whether or not the previous portfolio committees and chairpersons were involved in that at all, or if it's purely something that is kind of reserved for the executive and the officials. It would be nice, I suppose, for some of our members to also be exposed to some of the events and activities. I think most of us didn't realize it was currently taking place and underway. So maybe, Mr. Trotsky, I don't know if you can just maybe expand a bit on that, and how potentially members of the committee could get involved further, apart from that presentation by Dr. Troutman, as you've suggested. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Bryant. Honourable Grant Mare.
Thank you, Dr. Trotsky, and thank you for the presentation. Obviously, knowledge sharing is such an important aspect of where we're finding ourselves now, and we're part of a global village where we have to engage with our international counterparts so that we can improve our situation. Dr. Trotsky, I just wanted to know, in terms of our relationship with California, there's no bad blood between us and them at the moment, in terms of our government's a national foreign policy and our positioning of South Africa as a whole. Has that put some strain on the relationship between us and California? And what would you say, just at the top of your head, I would say, would be, in your mind, the positive spin-offs that came from our relationship with California in the short time that we have this agreement in place? Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Chairperson, may I answer?
Yeah, before you answer, I think the key question that members of this portfolio committee, obviously, our job is to conduct oversight over the work that is being done. And I think we haven't really received an extensive presentation with regards to this Mediterranean, relationship that you've got. That's the first point. And I think the second point, obviously, I don't know if it would have caused harm for the department or for the minister really to take the honourable members in confidence and bring them closer to this engagement, the bilateral engagement, or the engagements that are taking place, not the bilateral, but the engagements that are taking place. Because I think, our job is obviously conducting oversight, and it helps us if we don't really just shoot from the hip. We are able to really understand what we are doing and what we are involved in. We're going to be meeting with the American colleagues in the next couple of days. And we really don't have a clue as to what is really being discussed at this Mediterranean engagement. And I think that for us, it weakens our lobby or our engagements, as you have had the question that I've asked earlier, to say what has been the things that the environmental guys from California came to South Africa to learn about, what are the things that we are doing, because, there's an opportunity for soft power here. But if we don't use it effectively, we don't collaborate effectively, then we are going to lose. I think those were just really my comments, but I think maybe you can really share some light in terms of how the arrangements of having it here, when the planning was done, and so forth, and why the members were not really briefed about it. I cannot remember in our committee setting if we were ever really informed or briefed. Shireen, maybe you have got some note that you have made that you have been briefed about this. If that is so, please let us know. Thanks. Over to you, Dr. Droske.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you for the questions. Just to refer to the question by Honourable Member Bryant, in terms of MCAP and the potential role of the Standing Committee in that, the way that I understand it, and now I must honestly confess that I'm not the expert on MCAP. That is, Dr. Troutman is the person at that stage, or representing the Western Cape in the leadership group. She and Ms. Karen Shippey from DETP. So I am not sure whether any of the other regions involved in MCAP has got some of their legislatures or political persons involved in that. I think to a large extent that is at an official level that it is taking place. So yeah, I think that is the first one. But the positive is that this flow from this interaction between the different regions, and that's a positive about that. Mr. Murray, regarding your question, in terms of knowledge sharing, I think what we must keep in mind is that California is extremely expensive. To go there and to visit, the air freight is expensive, staying there is expensive. So we must be very selective in what we do in terms of knowledge sharing. So that is why in terms of our webinars and the subsequent visits that took place, a lot of emphasis was placed on water and the environment, well, water management, the environment, and technology. This is where Silicon Valley is. This is a similar climate, etc. And I think what is very positive is that we struck the gold riff in the sense that the idea that Minister Meyer had, or that he mooted in his discussion with Secretary Ross on the establishment of a Mediterranean climate change platform, actually fell on very, very fertile soil. So that led to this establishment of these regions. And I think, yeah, it led to the establishment of MCAP. So that was our first step, was in climate change, water use efficiency. And now that is why Mr. Ari van Ravensway and Ms. Bell will be going to California, is to see to what extent we can tap into Silicon Valley and the research and things that's being done on that side. So yeah, we must be very careful in how we invest public funds in this type of relationship. In terms of bad blood, no. To the contrary, I think as the federal government in the USA pulls back from international engagement, the states in the USA feel there is a gap and they need to fill that gap. And so you will see that California is an active member of the management of MCAP and taking the lead to a certain extent also in there. So there is definitely not bad blood. And what I understand is the other sources from the European Union and California's own resources and Australian resources are at the sub-regional level going into this exercise to make sure that it happens. What are the positive spin-offs from from both our engagement with California as well as the MCAP? I think what I said is also already, it is in terms of we need to take the lessons that really matter from us, and where in the case of California, they're already leaders. That is some of the positive spin-offs that we can develop as part of this exercise. Chairperson, in terms of your question, if I remember correctly, last year in the previous standing committee, during some of the meetings we had with the previous standing committee, mention of MCAP did took place, and there was an explanation was provided in terms of what is happening. Your secretariat could provide us with clarification whether that was captured by the previous committee. I think what MCAP is doing, they've got a work program that is divided into particular activities, short term, longer term. I am not the expert. I'm not the right person to brief you on that. And I think it may be good if you could invite Dr. Troutman to give you more information on the work program of climate change or of MCAP, and probably what came out of this discussion now during this week. I think in terms of I think those are the three the questions that was raised. I hope it answers the questions.
Honourable members, those are the answers. Are there follow-up questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. No follow-up questions from me, and thank you for Dr. Trotsky's feedback. Much appreciated.
I see the hand of Honourable Bryant.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you to Dr. Trotsky for Mr. Trotsky for the responses. I think just to reiterate your point in terms of oversight, this might be something which is geared towards the executive and the officials and the overseas interactions and all those sorts of things that are taking place. But as a committee, both our committees indeed, we really need to be able to understand what's taking place. I think one tends to feel a little bit silly when something like this takes place and we're not aware of it. But I suppose part of that is our own responsibility in terms of ensuring that we get the correct presentations and request that information. So I know there is an item on our agenda for resolutions. I don't think we would normally do resolutions for an information sharing session like this. but I would like to suggest that we put in a request either for both our committees jointly or individually to have a presentation from Dr. Troutman and trying to remember who was the other official that was mentioned from DP from us. Anyway, to have that presentation take place as soon as possible, so that we are all up to speed. But thank you very much, Chairperson.
Chairperson, if I may come in, it's Ms. Karen Shippey.
Karen Shippey, that's
DP.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks very much, honourable members. Yeah, I think what is really crucial going forward is to just ensure that we are properly briefed around this. And I think in our resolution, we can look at inviting the department to present. But by look of things, this MCAP cut across in terms of the focus area. It's not really only about agriculture, it's about environment. So I would think that, not necessarily what you call only the environment part will be invited from your side maybe to participate, because I think we will have them obviously when we are engaged in the Californian team. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, Dr. Drosky, for this engagement. The other question may be, from my side, Dr. Drosky, are these members of parliament or ministers from various countries that are being hosted? I mean, this sounds like a stupid question, but it's a question that, one has to ask. If we are being asked in the street, as members of parliament, we don't know what's happening with our executives. It doesn't feel well. But are these members of parliament, are this executive, or who are they meeting?
Chairperson, thank you. The way I understand it, and I must now be honest, I haven't been involved in MCAP or those activities, but the way I understand it, it is at the official level that the engagement take place. I do not know of any particular politicians or public representatives as part of the exercise. So according to my knowledge, it's all at the official level that's taking place.
Okay. No, thanks very much. Thank you. I think if there are no follow-up questions, colleagues, I am going to release Dr. Drosky, and then we can look at the resolutions, and then we can then adjourn the meeting. Dr. Drosky, thank you very much. I don't see any hands. Thank you, and thank you for your presentation.
Thanks, Chairperson and honourable members. Thanks for the opportunity to share this information with you. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you, sir. Shireen, are there resolutions that you have noted so far?
Chairperson, besides the one just mentioned regarding the MCAP, there's been nothing else that I've noted.
Thank you. And Johan, from your side?
The same, Chairperson. I have made a note of the MCAP resolution. I see Member Constable has got his hand up.
Member Constable, over to you.
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, can I ask permission to send my resolutions in writing to you? Thank you. And also Member Brian.
Have you thought about it, or are you going to think about it?
I will send it to you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other resolutions, colleagues?
Chair, I think the only thing is just in anticipation of our meeting on Tuesday, just to maybe between Shireen and Johan just brief us on just very quickly what we're anticipating from how that meeting will run. If there is any input from that side, that's the only thing I would request. Aside from that, I'm happy.
Okay, over to you, Johan.
Chairperson, yes, this is indeed the first one of its kind that we're going to do. We will have to just liaise with Ahmad Patience, and the letter was addressed to the speaker that I think it would be a dialogue between the members of the Western Cape Legislature as well as the California State Legislature. But I would think it would be help if we have the officials that was present today in the meeting to be present. And then members must decide, chairpersons, or you must decide whether you think it's necessary that we maybe kick off with the same overview of the two of the presentations that was done this afternoon, and then let the dialogue flow from there. Then perhaps there's a little bit more background to it. I don't know to what extent the California State Legislature is going to approach to this meeting.
Just before, obviously, I see the two hands. Before I allow the two hands, who is going to chair this meeting? Is it going to be from the speaker's side chairing the meeting, or is it ourselves, myself and Honorable Bryant? If you can provide that clarity. But before you come in, Johan, let me allow another hand, Honorable Bryant.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think I'd like to know that answer as well. I know Mr. Patience has sometimes chaired these meetings in the past, but I do think it is more prudent for us to have a member of Parliament chairing it. And then just secondly, I mean, yes, I think having a brief presentation at the beginning would be handy, but certainly not as long as the presentations today. So I think if we're going to do that, it must be, you know, either Mr. Diner or Dion from the local government environment side of things, doing a very brief overview before we get into those discussions. And then obviously in terms of the MOU, I'm not sure exactly how you want to approach that discussion, but maybe we can talk about that at a later stage. I see Mr. Patience is online now, so maybe he can give us some more guidance as to who would chair the session and how we take it from there. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks. Over to you, Stoffel. Honorable Stoffel.
Thank you. No, I think, Chair, assisted, but I'm just worried, Chair, for future purposes. I think when there's presentations around visitations of international countries or whatever, I think it's proper for the committee to be properly briefed. And all this to be outlined so that when they come to us as committee members, we know exactly what to, because I fear situation, there's already been a date and we are not going to meet again. And everything that we are talking here about, it's maybe, we don't know, maybe we don't know. So when the meeting is there, how will we know others? What will be the approach of the meeting on that time? So to me, Chair, it's a serious concern, this one that's transpired here now. So and it's so difficult, Comrade Chair, to work with you in terms of the resolutions, because there is a shortcoming in terms of information about this whole sitting that we have. So I'm worried, Chair, if we are going to do things in this fashion, it will catch up with us. But it's fine. I will hear from you, members, that you chairpersons took both two chairpersons in terms of the approach towards the meeting. Because currently I'm a bit lost. I don't know really what are we saying to each other here. Thank you, Chair.
Noted, Honorable Stoffel. I think, yeah, we're trying to really find a way forward. We are here, and I think we must just work together and make it work. Mr. Patient is here as well. He will help us. I see Honorable Nkondlo also joined. They have probably had this deliberation before. maybe her assistance will also be valuable. But over to Mr. Patience and Johan and Shireen to guide us going forward.
Hi, Chair. Yes, Chair.
Guidance, who's speaking? Oh,
It's Ahmed speaking, Chair.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Chair, I just joined the meeting now very late. Can I just perhaps ask that you wanted clarity on, in terms of the meeting next week, the formality? Is that what you're inquiring about?
Yeah.
Okay, Chair, so I can, immediately after this, I can chat to Shireen and Johan, and then I'll make contact with the office of the State Assembly member that had requested this meeting, and I can discuss with them for us to put an agenda together, outlining exactly what will transpire throughout the meeting, and then that we can then share with everybody so that everybody's aware of how the meeting is going to follow from start to end, if that's acceptable to you, Chair.
Yeah, the past practices in this regard.
Yes, for us to get an agenda together, because the conversation from their side, they indicated that similarly to us, they are also going to prepare a presentation from what they refer to as CAL fire, which is the California fire that recently dealt with their destruction that they had in the state of California. So they're going to do a presentation from their side of how they dealt with it, the stakeholders that were involved, and how they usually deal with when they have matters of the serious nature. And then according to our previous conversation, we're also going to have a presentation from our side on the fire season. And I think the recent fire that we had now on along the Table Mountain area, that will most probably be included in that. And then also on the MOU agreement. So I will immediately make contact with the California State Assembly and just find out from them exactly who will be present from their side and with their designations and who they will be representing. And then from there, we can put together an agenda, and we can also indicate to them who will be present from our side.
Thank you. Co-Chair, I just want to maybe, through you, request that maybe the caller Dinah be obviously the presenter for this particular engagement, because I think he's got more knowledge in this regard. But yeah, I will leave it to members if there's any other inputs that we want to give to Ahmed. And also it looks like, as far as I can hear from Ahmed, is that the Department of Agriculture might not be required to do a presentation. Am I correct?
Chair, I will just ask clarity from the State Assembly in California, because what the initial communication was from their side is that they just wanted to understand, considering that the MOU is in place, how has it assisted, I think since 2022, if I'm not mistaken, and if there are any issues that the Agricultural Department have perhaps identified during this time that they could perhaps from their side assist in trying to mitigate any barriers or any difficulties that the Agricultural Department might be facing from the side. So that is the point that they brought across in terms of the MOU.
Okay. No, I get it. So both Department of Agriculture and Environmental Affairs will be doing presentations as such, yeah?
Noted, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Bryant and Honorable Ngonzo, I see your hands have been up for a while.
Chair, just very quickly, in terms of the chairing of the session, there are obviously lots of different cooks here involved in creating this. So I just want to find out who it is anticipated will chair the session. Is it our speaker? Is their speaker? Is it one of the chairpersons of the committees? Just so that we can prepare. If Mr. Patience isn't able to give an answer now, that's fine. But maybe if we can just ensure that that is established as soon as possible, so we can prep. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Ngondlo.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've got two questions, perhaps which Ahmad or yourselves, as the two chairpersons, you can answer or clarify me. One, to Ahmad, what is the current foreign relations framework between South Africa and California that enables this particular conversation that we're having as a province on this specific matter on fire? And secondly, what would, if any, with this engagement that we're having, what would be the current implication on the legislation in South Africa that regulates, firefighting or fire in relation to the current environmental legislations that we have as members of parliament? Because for me, it's important to understand all of these initiatives and the efforts and investment that we're putting in the lawmaking environment. What exactly do we seek to achieve? There's a departmental understanding from a programmatic point of view, that needs to be done, and one would always be understanding that. But from an oversight and lawmaking process, one is just needing to get some kind of clarity. So if Ahmad is able to explain it in this meeting, or is something that he could follow up with a response, including yourselves, chair of our committee and chairperson of the environment, I think for me it will be very important to understand those two important context for the very discussion that we're having. One, the current foreign relations framework that exists between South Africa and California on this matter, even if it's generalized, but on this specific matter on managing fires, and the subsequent legislative implication on the current legislations that we do have and we operate in as the provincial and environmental portfolio. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honourable Ngondlo. I don't see any other hand, so over to you, Ahmad. I think you got the questions.
Yes, Member Bryant. I think after this meeting, I'm sending an email to the Californian colleagues so that we can formulate and then we can try and answer your question in terms of chairing. Our speaker will not be participating in this meeting, so this will be purely from the two standing committees from our side, and then I will seek clarity from the Californians who exactly will be present from their side in terms of their members and also stakeholders that will be doing presentations. So the answer to your question we'll be able to do once we get a reply from them. Member Nkondlo, we don't in terms of the framework between the Western Cape and California. The MOU that we making a reference to is not necessarily a legal MOU binding agreement that has financial implication. It is more of a friendly agreement that was created between the Western Cape and California, considering that the climate of the Western Cape and the climate of the state of California is very similar in nature. So in the MOU agreement, it's very broadly phrased in terms of the engagements and exchanges of information. One of it being the exchange of best practices when dealing with fires. And the other area that they refer to in the MOU is also to do with soil management, agricultural processing.
Can I interject, Chairperson?
Yes. Yes, member.
Okay, can I interject?
Can we allow him just to finish? Ahmed, can you wrap?
Yeah. So the
He's not answering my question. That's the reason. I do not want him to continue to answer on something that I didn't ask. That's why I wanted to interject, so that if he didn't pick up my question, he's able to answer. I'm not asking about what is the content of the current MOU. I'm asking about a framework between South Africa and California, which is the basis of this MOU. If it does exist, it does. If it doesn't, it's a simple answer is that I'm not interested in the contents of the current friendly MOU between Western Cape and California. I just wanted to clarify him so that he answers my question. If he doesn't have the answer now, he can answer me later on and submit it in writing.
Mr. Patience.
Apologies, member. I will have to answer you back on whether there is a legal framework in place between South Africa and California.
Yeah, thank you. So, honorable members, I think we have exhausted the questions and the answer. So, if I have to really just finalize the resolution or just give indication of what the resolutions are looking like from my notes, is that obviously Mr. Patience will get us a framework in terms of how we're going to really be conducting this meeting. And we'll also be requesting MCAP to come and do a presentation. But what is very clear is that this meeting will require the Department of Environmental Affairs and the Department of Agriculture to do brief presentation, and obviously, taking from the engagement that will have taken place between Ahmad and the Californian colleagues, then we will frame the table the agenda as such. I hope that I've captured all. Co-chair, do you have any other inputs that you want to make? I don't see co-chair.
No, Chair, I think you've covered it perfectly. Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, the last one is obviously the legal framework that Honorable Ngondlo requested, which Ahmad indicated that he will provide in writing. Colleagues, thank you very much. And yeah, so we see each other again. And Ahmad, when would you speak to us?
As soon as I have a reply, Chair, then I will formulate an email and send it on to you.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Colleagues, thank you. The meeting is adjourned, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, Chairperson.